Hi, everybody. It was 5 years ago this week that a financial crisis on Wall Street spread to Main Street and very nearly turned a recession into a depression. In a matter of months, millions of Americans were robbed of their jobs, their homes, their savings, after a decade in which they'd already been working harder and harder just to get by. It was a crisis from which we're still trying to recover. But thanks to the grit and determination of the American people, we're steadily recovering. Over the past 3.5 years, our businesses have created 7.5 million new jobs. Our housing market is healing. We've become less dependent on foreign oil. Healthcare costs are growing at the slowest rate in 50 years. And in just over a week, millions of